How's Key doing after the injury on Sunday?
He's good. He had an X-ray on his ankle yesterday. Had an X-ray on his foot today, and what kind of came of that is just a lateral ankle and foot sprain. So we don't really have a timetable for return. I just know the last couple of days he's been in here, every opportunity that he can, getting treatment, and obviously, trying to get back as quickly as possible. All right, see ya.
Jackson State. I mean, you guys obviously are familiar with Deshaun Ruffin back from when y'all recruited him, but just what do you think about him and just this team as a whole coming in? They've played a pretty brutal schedule, and y'all are going to be part. Y'all are just part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a team that finished 14-4 in the SWAC last year, made it to their conference championship game, and returned a good chunk of the production from that team. I think 65% of their scoring comes back from last year's team. They're picked to finish second in a league that Bethune-Cookman's in. Obviously, Bethune-Cookman came in here and gave us all that we could handle. So if I'm Jackson State, and I told the guys this, like, they're licking their chops right now because they're looking at a team that was picked to finish ahead of them, that they probably think that they're better than, gave us everything that we can handle. So why can't we do that? On top of, like you said, they've played a really, really difficult schedule already, haven't gone to Illinois, haven't gone to Louisville, two top 10 teams. So they're not going to be scared of coming in here to Neville to play Auburn. So our guys got to understand that, we got to have the same type of preparation that we did for Houston in order to get ready for a good Jackson State team. And, for us, it's all about just continuing to grow, continuing to build, and just try to get better each week, which I think our guys have, done a pretty good job of doing since that first game. So, Deshaun is a guy that's always been just a super talented scorer. Preseason conference player of the year, does a little bit of everything for him, leads him in points and assists and steals. So can drive it either direction. Can finish in a multitude of ways. Can shoot it from not shooting great percentages this year, but I think part of that is just kind of similar to Tahad, probably having to take more difficult shots than he's used to. He'll find his footing out. But him and Dorian McMillan, who was the SWAC freshman of the year last year, are two guys that are really, really talented offensively, and it's going to be a great test for our guys and their one-on-one closeouts and their one-on-one defense, which obviously got challenged in the last game. So they got pieces offensively, especially the guards that can expose some of the weaknesses that we may have.
Stephen, how did Murph play, and how does body sort of respond to those extended minutes?
I asked Murph yesterday before film how he was feeling. He said he was sore, which is what I expected. Playing even if Murph hadn't kind of come off multiple injuries, when you play a game of that level of physicality, you're going to be sore. And we watched film yesterday, and you watch Murph every time a shot goes up, he went and hit someone really hard. And when you do that for, he probably played 31 minutes, that'll take its toll on you, as the game goes on. So, I thought going into the season, one of my biggest questions was, are we physical enough? Are we soft? And we challenged our guys, like, listen, Houston is typically known as the standard when it comes to playing physically and playing hard. And I thought our guys answered that in a big way. But are we going to continue to do that? Or are we just going to do it because it was Houston? So our guys have to, find a way to have that same mindset in their preparation, but also in their physical play, each and every game, if we want to be able to have the success that I think we're capable of. So Murph, was pretty sore yesterday, but we kept it pretty light for the guys that played heavy minutes yesterday. So, I think he'll be in a good spot today to give it a go and get ready for Jackson State.
Obviously, you guys shifted the rotation when Murph was sitting out. If Key's out, how do you think that things may change? Maybe getting some more guys different minutes or different roles, or just kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, Sebastian obviously slides into that spot, and you'll probably keep the starting rotation the same. And then we'll work a few different lineups in practice today, just as far as guys playing different positions. Elijah's got to be ready to play some 4 in case of a pinch. Phillips got to be ready to play some 4, to back up Sebastian. And then from there, you got to give, Simon's back in, coming back full speed. He'll be with the scout team today just so he can get some live reps in practice because he hasn't had those in 2 months basically. So, Simon will be on the scout team today. But, I think for us, like, we're trying to find a little more depth at the guard positions. So, whether that's Blake or Abdul or Simon or maybe sliding Caden over to some too, like, it's open audition right now for those guys. Like, if they, want to show me that defensively they're really good at keeping their man in front and they can physically check out and keep their man off the boards, then they're going to find more ways to get minutes. So, I have a lot of confidence in those guys offensively. That's not an area that, I need them to show me how good they are. They don't need to score to stay on the floor. Guys that come off the bench, like, you have to be able to defensively keep your men in front and limit our mistakes on the defensive end. And any one of those guys wants to do that, I think the opportunity will be there. So, we'll definitely mess around some things today, lineup-wise, as far as what we're going to do if Key's not able to go tomorrow. And I wouldn't expect Key to play tomorrow just because I don't want him to play tomorrow. I want him to be healthy, and I want him to get back to 100% because this is a long season. So, we're gonna prepare this week and obviously prepare for this weekend or next week as if we may not have him.
Key was my question. I'm sorry.
You mentioned Elijah earlier. Obviously, he had the crazy dunk, but it looked like, for a guy playing in his first really big D1 game, he looked like, he belonged and hung in there physically. How did you think he did, and how he's really kind of proven himself early on for a wing in that spot?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I've spoken very highly of Elijah all preseason, all season, and he has got all the potential in the world to be as good of a basketball player as he wants to be. And obviously you can see in moments where, he just makes some really big plays, whether it's, obviously the dunk in the second half or making a big shot at the end of the first half from three, just does a lot of little things. One of the things that Elijah, and he's so coachable, so I'm able to speak to this, but like, he's got to cut down on his mistakes. We talked about in this game specifically, playing off of 2 feet and not playing off of 1. And there was 3 times, I think, where Elijah ended up on the ground taking the ball to the basket, and it led to 7 points in transition. So, he has to cut down on those types of mistakes in order for him to be the best version of himself that he's able to. Defensively, he's got to be way more loaded to the ball when he's not guarding his man or guarding the ball. He's got to be loaded and gassed because any time that Elijah, you saw it in the last 3 minutes, he was in the gap in 2 possessions and got 2 steals. In the 8 minutes before that, he was hugged up onto his man, making sure that his guy didn't score as opposed to offering help and then getting back to his own. So, to answer your question, I just went BP on you. He did that's what I expect him to do because I have really high expectations for Elijah. I think he's a really, really good basketball player. So I'm obviously happy that he did some really good things, but I think his ceiling is so much higher than what he's showing right now. And what I love about him is that he's willing to make those changes. It's just a matter of applying those into games. And it was great for him to be able to see those things on film and learn from them and know, like, while people are, reposting all my stuff all over Instagram and Twitter, there's still a lot that I can do better that can help impact winning because he does so many little things that don't show up on the stat sheet, and he'll continue to do so. So he's where I thought he'd be, and the exciting part about him is there's so much room for him to get better too.
You mentioned after the Houston game how much y'all have improved defensively since Bethune-Cookman. How much of that has to do with communication on the floor? Seems like Tahad is a guy who sits down, talks a lot. Keyshawn Murphy is a guy who sits down and talks a lot. How much do you put an emphasis on that with those guys?
I'm not happy with our communication, actually. I think it's got to be better. Kirk asked me walking in, like after watching the film, what did you think? And I thought we weren't as good defensively as what I thought in real time. Like I thought we gave up way too many straight line drives, and we were never loaded to the ball to plug those gaps and not let Houston just get ahead of steam and going downhill. And we gave up 4 uncontested layups in the second half. Like no one touched them. Like, you guys could have freaking made those layups. So it's like it blew my mind because in the Oklahoma State game we had the same issue, and we talk about like when Mech said that Berg like got after him that one day in practice, was exactly what he was talking about, was uncontested layups at the rim. And just too many times, like we were so concerned about our man scoring that we weren't loaded to the ball to help the guy guarding the ball. We left like KO and Elijah and Caden and those guys on an island way too many times, Murph, and it just allowed them to, when you're an offensive player and you have the ball and you look around and you see the guys one pass away completely hugged up to their men, all you see is wood and you're able to drive it. But if those guys are loaded to the ball and you see their eyes, you're going to have a little more hesitancy when you're driving. In the possessions where we did that, good things happened. But then in the possessions when we didn't, it led to easy opportunities, or it allowed Houston to get to their mid-range game, which is something that they're pretty good at. So while the defense, was pretty physical, and I thought, obviously we hung in there punch for punch. Like there's still a lot that we got to get better at, as far as our gap discipline, our shot fake discipline, to be able to keep teams out of the paint, because that was one of the biggest areas that I thought really hurt us in the Houston game.
Stephen, you talked about with Keyshawn out, what might happen to those minutes in the open audition and the importance of defense. But at the other end, he's averaging 12 shots a game. What does that do offensively? Do you think guys are excited, like, hey, I can, call my number, call some plays for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we got to obviously have a little more emphasis on some of our guards. Tahad, KO, Elijah are going to have to do a little more offensively. But Sebastian is going to be asked to do more. We got to get Philip a little more involved offensively because he's capable. But he's got to remember what we're doing. The last couple of games, Philip's had a few mental errors of just like remembering plays, and he's a really smart basketball player. So can't have those types of things happen. So it's just next man up. I think we have the one positive about our team is I think we have multiple options that can obviously score. I think we have. I don't know how many guys we have averaging double figures right now. We have 6 guys averaging double figures right now. So it just means more for those guys. And those guys just got to step up and do a good job of carrying the load. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's averaging 10 free throws a game right now. Right? He's shooting 55% from 3, 51 from the field, and he's our best offensive rebounder. So yeah, it's obviously it's a big void, but I thought our guys did a good job in the last. He was out the last 4 minutes. Did a good job the last 4 minutes of really hanging in there. And I think they only scored 2 points when he went out. So our guys defended, they guarded, but obviously we just got to we probably got to focus a little more on the guards, with him being out of the game, and just letting those guys play more out of ball screen, play more in space to get themselves involved, but also get others involved.